Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Brian's Broken Toys. What I have for you today is a 1990 Lincoln Mark VII. This is an interesting car that I just acquired from the salvage auction. We have actually had quite a bit of activity going on in this area of Southeast Texas, so I apologize for not getting back or updating more frequently. I've had some other things I've had to do. But the advantage to all this is we've had some cars coming through the auctions that have been Harvey flood victims. This car is actually a Harvey flood victim. So you will see me over the next several months go ahead and see if I can resurrect this car, get it back on the road again. Now let me tell you a little background for the guys that don't know about this. You know, you've got your luxury brands, you've got Mercedes, Lincoln, BMW, Porsche, Cadillac, and that kind of thing. The Lincolns and the Cadillacs in this time period actually were competing against the Mercedes for supremacy back then, in an era when cars were not a homogenized blob like they are driving around nowadays. So this Lincoln was one of, in my opinion, the better suited or better sport coupes that they made back then, because this car actually has a Mustang 5.0 HO engine with, back in the day, 225 horsepower, and it also has a rear-wheel drive Ford 8.8 rear axle in it. So it's a pretty stout car, pretty good looker with a lot of nice build quality or aspects of it. In fact, you can see just off the top of my head this nice chrome trim everywhere, brushed aluminum, and these are actually real wire wheels here. These are not fakes or hubcaps. You may be able to tell how stout that is. This is a real aluminized aluminum wire wheel. This car, interestingly enough, as I say in my description, came through the auction as a flood car, and I look for these regularly, so I'm fairly familiar with cars that are damaged or flooded or things like that. But when it came through the auction, they showed, as you can see, this WL stands for what they said was the water line on this car, which, when I looked at the pictures, looked fairly inaccurate, because cars that are flooded that high usually have quite a bit of damage that you can spot visually. So when I came time to bid on this car actually sold. My final bid on this was a whopping $35. Believe it or not. And then, of course, I dragged it back here and found $21 in quarters in the center console. So I actually paid $14 for this car. And, of course, the auctions charge you about $100 in fees associated with that, which is a ripoff all on its own. But as you can see, the car is in very, very good condition. And this is what I could tell from the pictures. So I was rather suspicious about whether or not that water line was accurate, because in the past I've known that when we have large flooding events in the Southeast Texas area, the insurance companies are so overwhelmed that they will just write off cars and not worry about it. So you can tell this car got a little bit wet inside. I've already pulled the ignition switch in preparation to do some things, and it did get some water in it. You can tell there's a little bit of corrosion in here, things like this. You know, the seats are a little bit messy right now, but you can see back here and some of the mold that gets on these cars when water sits in them. Now, the good thing about the Lincolns is they actually have a very good weather stripping seal system on it. There's an inner seal here, and it is really robust, and it's a double system. So it's got an outer seal and an inner seal that keeps a lot of this water out of the car. So even if this car had gotten really high, a lot of the water kept out of it. Now, one other thing about this car is this called a Bill Blass edition, which he was a designer, I think, of boats back in the day, and they would put their custom accented touches on these cars. So, of course, I dragged this car home, and the engine was absolutely filled with water up to the top. Wouldn't even turn over because there was so much water in it. So as of right now, I've drained the water out of the car. I put a battery on it, and I actually was able to get this thing to show me the display on the dashboard, and it only has 70,000 miles on it. You can also see this has a moonroof as well, some of the other nice features. So this is just a well-built, well-engineered car. It also has an airbag, full airbag suspension system on it that adjusts the ride height. So it's a very comfortable ride. But what you'll see me doing over the next few months is seeing if I can get it started and cranked. I have a goal for myself within the next 60 days to have this back on the road again. So stay tuned, keep checking my videos, or subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll show some more details of what I'll be doing with this car to clean it up and get it back rehabilitated again. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to comment below. Thanks again for watching, guys.